Well, it turned out the guy had Tourette's. And that's the story of how I got punched in the face. Oh wait, looks like someone sent me a package. Let me show you. It says Fragile. Well, I don't know any Fragiles, but maybe it just got misdelivered. I don't feel comfortable opening this at the house, so let's take it to the hangar just in case it explodes. Then I can file an insurance claim on the Bonanza. Well, my whole life is falling apart, but we have the package safely right here. Let's take it to the hangar. Oh, it's just airplane parts. It even came with a note. Dear Jawanza, this is a part that I cannot find for my airplane. It may or may not be experimental. P.S. If you're reading this for YouTube, it is definitely experimental. Love, Ryan. Love, Ryan. And by the way, that intro was just me being creative. If you don't like that kind of stuff, this might not be the channel for you. There's Fly with Haley, and there's Fly with all kinds of people like Fly with Owen, or go find those people who are doing flying videos if you want that kind of stuff. But we're a diverse channel here. We do lots of different things. We're concerned about lots of different things, and we do it in our own way. And part of that way is me executing or exercising my freedom to be creative. Anyways, let's dive into this. And okay, here's where I have to be transparent with you. No pun intended. I have not seen these. This is actually the first time I'm opening up this package. I knew it was coming, and I know exactly what the part is and where the part goes. And they're in horrible shape. It looks like they are experiencing crazing. It's kind of hard to see, but these parts are definitely looking like they've experienced a bunch of heat stress over the years. There's bubbles in the material. It might be acrylic, it might be Lexan formed over a mold. And there's another one, so there are two. I'm gonna guess this is for a, let's say a wingtip fuel pod. Yeah, like tip tanks or something. This doesn't fit on the Bonanza. I don't have something like this on my Bonanza, but the person who sent these to me said, hey, I know you don't offer this as a commercial service, and I know I can source these in the wild somewhere, but these might be a great example for your channel to show the people what's up. Yeah, so these are, yeah, again, I don't know exactly where these go or where they came from, but let's see what we can do with these. Oh, it's me again. I talk a lot. If you're new here, welcome. Here's a disclaimer. I'm not an A&P. I don't work for the FAA. I don't represent the FAA. I'm not a DER. I'm not a ATP. I'm not anything, actually. I, in my professional life, am a flight test engineer, and so I write a lot of certification documents, and I kind of know how the parts come together. Not for every situation and solution, but I kind of know high level what's going on out in the world. So with that said, everything I say here is academic. I am trying to prove to you that there are things that you and I can do to try to help ourselves, save ourselves when it comes to old small airplanes. Do not construe this as being guidance or freedom or leeway to go do something on your own and then call me up in court and say, hey, you said that this is what I can do. Don't do that. Let's not get there. I like having this channel and I don't want the FAA called on me. Although the statistics show that one of you probably will call the FAA on me at some point. Hi and welcome. Okay, so let me talk you through the game plan while I get set up here. This is a gaming laptop that I bought 3 years ago, so it's not super expensive, but it is my personal computer, the thing that I use to edit these videos and do all the stuff that you see me do on the channel. This right here is a 3D scanner. It's a Creality Raptor, the original Raptor, and I've had this for maybe 3 or 4 years, and it does great. It can scan in infrared, or it can scan using these blue lasers that get shot out of the part, and then it measures the lasers, it turns it into a 3D model. Everything over here is just wires. This is the normal plug for the laptop. These are some tracking dots. There's some little 3D printed things that have dots on them that help the scanner know where it's at in 3D space. And then everything else in this bag is just cords and wires for the 3D scanner. So let's pull these out. I'm not doing this in my house or in a studio. I'm doing it in the comfort of my dusty hangar because I want you to see that this is no fancy production. It's really nothing exciting to get here. This is a consumer grade scanner. Yes, it was about $1,000 or $1,500 when I bought it, but you could probably find them used. And even at $1,000, what it does is well worth it. So don't cheap out if you really want to get into this stuff. I just throw it into this little bundle because it's easier to move around and not damage my things. Let's see, let's walk over here. I think I've got, yeah, here we go. This is a scanning board. It's got the dots on it already, the same dots that are on these little tracking things. It's the same dots. And so it lets the scanner know where it's at in 3D space very accurately because these dots are rigid. They will not move when I put that part down on it. It will not move. So it'll know exactly where it is in 3D space. So all I'm going to do is put the part down and then scan the part. Now here's a problem. The part is transparent. So when the camera on my 3D scanner goes to try to see this part, the laser lines are going to pass through it and it's not going to be able to see the glass. It's not going to be able to see the transparent stuff. So what I have to do is go get another tool from my car, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment. Some of you are going to say, what's going on with your production quality? This is all on purpose. I want to show you that I don't need a fancy studio to show you that you can play your part to save general aviation. All right, so you probably cannot see what's going on the screen, and that's okay. It's inconsequential for now. But you should see right about here that there are some lines pulsing. Those are steady laser lines. They're blue laser lines. And that's how the 3D scanner knows where it's at, or what it's looking at. It's scanning the part with those lasers that you're seeing there. If you could see the laptop, then you would notice that the scanner itself isn't actually seeing anything because the part is transparent. So you see it's leaving a whole bunch of holes in the scan. That's not a very clean scan. So let's do something different. This is a rattle can of something that is not paint, but it's called sublimation spray. It's scanning spray is what it's called on the can. And sublimation spray does exactly that. It sublimates. For something to sublimate, it goes from a solid to a gaseous state without the liquid part in the middle. So think about ice going straight from solid ice directly to steam. This right here will spray out of the can in a semi-solid format, or semi-solid medium. It's a semi-solid when it hits the part. I'll spray this part and it will be solid on the part. It's gonna look like dust. It's just gonna look like it's a dusty part. If I let that sit for 10 minutes, that dusty part is gonna turn into the original part. It's just gonna clear out. This stuff will sublimate off of the part. So I don't have to wipe it, I don't have to clean it. It leaves no residue, it leaves no trace of what this was behind. I don't know what magic this is made out of. It smells great. I probably shouldn't be inhaling this stuff, but I got the hangar door open, hence the noise in the background. And yeah, and so this should work out just fine. So we're gonna hit that lens with some sublimation spray. Let me show you what this looks like. Should be pretty straightforward. I hold it right there. I spray it, and all of a sudden the part is chalky. You could do the same thing by dusting it with baby powder and then wiping it all off, but I'm doing it with sublimation spray. Ooh, that sun's starting to come in here. The sun's going down, so it's brightening up the part. It turns out the scanner doesn't like the incredibly bright sunlight shining on it, so I gotta close the hangar door. If you have a hangar door like this, do not stand under it or near it as it closes. Many people have learned that lesson the hard way, either paying with their life or totaling an airplane. You know what? I should have just done this in the first place, because now this is much better. It's hot in the hangar, but I do this for you. All right, let's start a new scan. The sublimation spray is still on the part. I got my blue lasers going on. And if you look over on the screen on the left side, you can buy magic, and this is in real time. I'm not gonna speed this video up. Again, no movie magic. You can see that my scanner is picking up a whole bunch of those blue dots. So it's locking those into memory, and it knows exactly where the blue dots are. And then it's spitting out those laser lines and taking a picture of how the laser line is curving. It takes that picture and does some arithmetic or algebra or geometry. I have no idea what it's doing. And then it creates an image of a solid part. So everything that you see is blue on my monitor, on my computer screen, is good data. It's just the outside shape of the part. I'm just gonna get around it. It doesn't have to be perfect, because I'm gonna recreate this anyway. This scanning is the easy part. There's a second step that's required to turn the scan into something usable, and that's going into CAD, like SolidWorks. Because I have two of these, I'm gonna scan both of them, and I should have enough information then. If you look over here, I have 3D points. They're not processed yet, so if I zoom in, they're just individual little dots. I have to process this and do something with it in the computer to make it a useful part. So we will finish that scan, and I will take the part and I will put it aside to let that sublimation spray just kind of evaporate. That's pretty much as easy as it is. You're seeing me doing this in real time. Now, why haven't I started a business to do all of this? I probably will. Just need funding. So if sponsors are listening, here's your chance. Second part, sublimation spray, spritz, spritz, spritz. Doesn't have to be full coverage. Put the thing down. And then I'm gonna start a new scan. Actually, I'm gonna put this on something so it's raised up off of the bed just a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. I'll do a much better job at this if I really was needing to do a better job at this, but at this point I just need to get the scan data so I can get out of this hangar. It's starting to warm up. Once this is done, I'll take you home and talk to you about our plan of attack. So again, just to fill the space and time here, this is the Creality Raptor, the original Creality Raptor. It's available online. You can buy it right now. You can buy it used. As long as it comes with all the parts, it really doesn't matter. Buying it used probably is the better thing to do, save yourself some money. And if you can't use this kind of stuff, that's okay. You probably have a neighbor, a daughter, a cousin, a nephew who could probably figure this stuff out. They might even be going to school for engineering, and stuff like this is a part of the engineering curriculum. Okay, so that blue part on the left shows me that I have enough scanned data. Let's click around it just to be sure. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. All I really need is the basic shape. I don't need the whole thing because I'm going to redraw this anyway in a CAD program. So let's finish that. And we'll put these parts aside to sublimate. Cool. So we have a scanned part. We have two scanned parts actually. We got the left side and the right side. This scan is so good that it's picking up the little dimples that are here from the manufacturing process, or maybe they've just been put in there over time. We won't need to add those obviously to the new model that we're gonna make. But I have the holes for mounting and I have the waviness of this part. Of course, we know we don't need to model it exactly as it is because the manufacturing process has created defects. And there's a little gully here where I think I could smooth it out perfectly. And the tape that's in place for anti-chafing, I believe, is probably not going to be something I model into this part. So I'm making decisions right now to set myself up for success. I'm looking at the part, just kind of scrolling around it to figure out how will I model this thing? And what things are important on this thing? Will the final user or the final application be okay with a little bit of slop that they have to tighten up using hardware? What manufacturing techniques am I going to consider for this part? The next thing I need to do after I think about all those things is export this model and put it into a software like Fusion 360 or Onshape or FreeCAD or SolidWorks and recreate this thing. I'm going to do that in a future video because this one's getting long already and I really have got to end my day here pretty soon. I got to go do actual Bonanza stuff to get the airplane back up and flying. But I hope this was a teaser enough to let you know what's coming in the future. And I'm going to step you through practically everything I do to remake this part, from the CAD that comes after this step to looking out into the internet for people that can make the part, or maybe 3D printing a buck and then, heating up some Lexan and trying to form it myself. Let's see what we can do with this part. I hope you're going to stick around for part 2 in this series. And, let's just see where things go. All right, we'll catch you soon. Right, so if you are new here, and there's a good chance that you are because I've had quite a few followers join in the past month or so, you might not know the things that are important to me and the things that are important to this channel. So let me just take 30 seconds to tell you, we are concerned about our ability to keep old, small airplanes flying, and medium-sized airplanes as well. Airplanes of any size, we're concerned about keeping them going. And if we are going to keep them going, we're going to have to find clever solutions to safely and legally make, remake, reverse engineer parts, or find part substitutes out in the wild that would apply to the airplanes that we fly and the methods in which we keep them maintained. I'm an advocate for following the FARs and the CARs. CAR 3 for this airplane and Part 43 for maintaining old small airplanes. Huge fan of those things because it gives us guidelines, it gives us ways that we can legally do things on these airplanes. And then the FAA has handed us tools like NORSI and VARMA that allow us to go and be smart about how we're putting modern solutions onto old and sometimes vintage airplanes. So that lens example is the perfect talking point. Is it a safety of flight issue if that thing falls off or it's not on the airplane? No. The airplane will fly just fine without it. You may get buzzing or whistling or something, but don't go try this. I'm just saying if it falls off, it's not a big deal. Do we have modern tools that can replicate those things in the comfort of your home? Yes. Are there online solutions that will help you do exactly the same thing? Yes. And so let's talk about one of those options or one of those pathways today.